Welcome to the Realities of College Recruiting podcast, where our team of former college coaches, players, and MLB scouts tackle the most critical college recruiting topics. With guests including college coaches, MLB pro scouts, and industry insiders, we will empower you with the tips and strategies needed to gain an advantage in your college recruiting process. The SportsForce podcast is powered by our partner, 5-Tool Baseball. Okay, let's start the show. All right. Well, welcome to the SportsForce College Recruiting Realities podcast. And I got special guest Lynn Landingham with us from 5-Tool Baseball out of Texas. And Lynn, how you doing?
Doing well, Andrew. Doing well.
All right. Awesome. Well, we got a lot to cover because you've spent your life in the game, and I know you live it and breathe it and sleep it. So why don't you first kind of touch a little bit about kind of when did baseball, become a big part of your life just as a child and a young man, and kind of take us back in time a little bit?
Well, I mean, that's as long as I can remember. I just had a tremendous passion for the game. I loved it, spending time in the backyard, throwing up a rock and hitting it with a stake or whatever it took. And then, I started playing organized baseball when I was probably 7 and, was blessed enough to get a chance to play it for a while. I had a chance to play Division I baseball at Texas Tech University. And then as my children got older, I got heavily involved in select baseball from a coaching standpoint with them. And, I'd be considered a yard rat. So that's just what I am and where I came from.
Absolutely. And obviously Texas baseball has changed dramatically since you went through the whole process. And, share a little bit about kind of how you got involved in coaching at the travel ball level with some of the, prominent teams in the area as well.
Yeah, actually, my wife and I moved to Dallas-Fort Worth in 2002 from Corpus Christi. And our boys had played basically Little League affiliated baseball down there. And, that option had kind of died out in Dallas-Fort Worth by the time we got here. And a friend of mine that I actually had played baseball with in the summer in college was associated with the Dallas Mustangs. And so started with my oldest son. At the time, he was 13. We affiliated with the Dallas Mustangs, and that's kind of where it started.
Awesome. And what were the other programs that you ended up coaching with? I know you were telling me about that one team you had, which had a number of guys that went on and played pro ball.
Yeah, we with my 2007 group, we eventually merged and became the Arlington Heat, which was a club out of Arlington. And that team, I guess there were 6 kids on that team that wound up playing professional baseball. Garrett Buechele went to Oklahoma, Mike Marshall to Stanford. Jacob House actually played in the College World Series with Arkansas, and then also again with Texas A&M. Chad Comer went to UTA, played for the Rangers. Matt went to Sam Houston State, and he actually played in the field, pitched in the Phillies organization. And then Randall Thorpe actually went to A&M, left there and went to San Jack, and then signed with the White Sox. So that was the group that I was with originally. And then with my 2014 group, after that group graduated, I dropped back and started coaching that group. And Tommy Hernandez, the owner and founder of the Dallas Tigers, was a college teammate of mine. And when that group became 13, we moved over to the Tigers and took them up, until they basically graduated with the Dallas Tigers.
Yeah, so you were at the front end of a lot of the growth of travel team baseball, in Texas. I know it got started probably in the 90s is when things started getting real serious.
Yeah, actually, I remember when I was playing in college in the summer, hearing about the Dallas Mustangs. So that would have been, 1988.
Okay.
But I think those teams really had to travel a lot to play. And then I believe, the Tigers came around in probably 95, 96 in that neighborhood. And then the Patriots and D-Bat. And, it's really exploded here in Dallas-Fort Worth and in Texas in general.
Absolutely. Well, what was the impetus or the driver for you to start, 5-Tool Baseball? Where did you see there was really an opportunity to better serve players and families?
Well, it actually started with my 2014 group, which was, extremely talented group. I mean, we had a first round draft pick on that team. There's two other kids that are playing pitching professionally right now. There'll probably be one, maybe two more. And we made a trip out of state to go play in an event, and we drove all over the countryside, and never played in front of more than 4 or 5 Division I schools. And we came back to Dallas the very next weekend, and I had Turner Larkins on my team that went to Texas A&M. He's pitching for the Blue Jays now, or in the Blue Jays organization. So I was throwing him, and the Fort Worth Cats were throwing Casey Shane, and there was 15 radar guns in the stands. So I started asking myself, why would we travel when the schools that are going to recruit these kids, are actually here local? And I think that's the thing that people miss out on a lot, is that baseball is a regional game. And the analogy I like to use is that, there's not a lot of people in Texas that care about the shortstop at Clemson, but, everybody in Texas knows about the quarterback at Clemson because, football is a national game. I think baseball is more of a regional game, whether it be at the Division I level, NAI, or junior college level. Therefore, I think that, we needed to create regional opportunities for these young men to get an opportunity to showcase their abilities. I think statistics will show you that, 95% of the kids are going to go to school within 450 miles of home. And, it just never made sense to me to travel all over the country so the Big 12 could watch my kids play when the Big 12's right here in our backyard.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the cost. You think about the parents, if you're traveling to Florida or Georgia or California or Ohio, the flights, the hotels, I mean, stuff adds up real quick.
Well, absolutely. And you know what, Andrew, I try to, there's a lot of people around the country that run great events, and I'm not trying to slight them in any way. What I try to tell everybody, whether it be a parent that is asking for some recruiting advice or, where to go and what to do, I just think that when you travel, it needs to be more about the experience than it is about thinking you need to chase exposure. These college coaches get compensated to look under every bush and turn over every rock to find talent. That's what they get compensated to do. And they're very, very good at it. I think one of the things that's much different today versus 20 years ago is there's not a lot of hidden gems anymore. You'll see a lot of kids that'll take a big jump from one year to the next. But these college coaches, do such a tremendous job of looking for players wherever they can find them, that I think a lot of times in your own backyard there's more opportunity than there is for you to travel around the country.
Yeah, it's a good point for sure. And you've seen how much even recruiting's changed just in the last 5 years with 5-Tool. I mean, talk a little bit about the power of video, social media, some of the things that you guys really try to focus on, to give players some love and highlight the dudes of the day and that type of stuff.
Yes, that actually kind of started based upon my 2014 team. I had 5 really big arms on that team, and we were playing an event that was associated with TCU. And so what I did is I threw each one of those guys 1 to 2 innings so they could throw there on the big stage where the college coaches were there watching them. And I had a third baseman by the name of Alex Samples, and Alex that day was 0 for 4. But everybody was there to watch the arms. It was no big deal. Well, the rest of the event, I think Alex was, 9 for 11 and had 6 doubles and 11 RBIs, and nobody knew about it. So when we started 5-Tool, we decided that, hey, you know what we want to do with what's out there on social media is that it doesn't matter where the kid plays. If he performs at a high level, he's going to get recognized for it. So that's why at all of our, large events, we cover them the same way, whether it's at, Fort Worth Southwest High School, or whether it's at TCU or DBU or UTA or, Oklahoma State. Doesn't really matter. We're going to cover it the same way. That way, if a young man performs at a high level, he gets recognized for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've talked extensively about the recruiting process and, players finding, the right college fit, and sometimes, checking the ego, at the door. if you were given advice, to parents, and I know you do a lot, uh, give a lot of recruiting advice, what are a few things that you think are just critical for today's parent who's going through this process for the first time to understand?
Well, I think the most important thing is that you're assisting your son in making the right decision for where he needs to be. Um, I understand that there's a lot of recognition that can be gained, and you can feel really good about your son and a lot of pride based upon his commitment to a large Division I school. But that might not always be the best fit. The best fit is, in my opinion, putting your young man in a situation where he gets a chance to play one more year. And the reason to me that that's so important is in my own life, what this game did for me. I was extremely blessed to get to play for two amazing men. Tom McPherson was my high school coach, and now he's the head coach at Katy High School down in the Houston area. I think he just won his 800th game. And then I got to play for Larry Hayes at Texas Tech, which is, one of the finest human beings you'll ever meet in your life. And even though, I was a below average Division I player, the fact that I was around those men, they put me in a position to, be a better husband, a better father, a better employee, and a better man. And I think a lot of times that's what's lost in this process is that we get so caught up in the recognition of where the kid's going and who's recruiting him. We lose sight of the fact that I think the most important goal is to allow these kids to play one more year, because I'm a firm believer that if they stay around the game just one more year, wherever it be, whether it be at from JV to varsity high school baseball, or from varsity high school baseball to junior college or Division I or pro ball, just staying around the game one more year will give these young men an opportunity to be more successful in life. And I wish that I could find a better way to convey that message and make sure parents really understood it, because we get caught up in batting average and ERA and whip and OPS. And, what you need to be focused on is what this game teaches from a life lesson standpoint that's going to give your young man an opportunity to be more successful in life. Because really, you know, not that many of us are going to get to play it long enough to make a living out of it. And I hope they do. But they're going to learn these life skills that they can take with them the rest of their lives to help them be more successful.
Sure. And you think about, sometimes that college decision of chasing the big name, school, um, there's some pitfalls that are out there that aren't often talked about, with, sometimes schools over recruiting or bringing in, a certain amount of players, and then some go home, during the December of the freshman year, or maybe they went in with the wrong expectations of what the opportunity was, um, and just being able to stay at a school that's a great fit, and making that decision right at the out of the gate. Um, Not always easy. It definitely takes some due diligence and some research, but it's important that your son has a great experience on the field, off the field, academically, because, kind of to your point, that the relationships that they build after the game, after college, they might set them up for, you know, their next career, maybe a new business that they start with a former teammate. I mean, so many different options can open up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I get as excited for the kid that commits to, a junior college as I do the kid that commits to a Big 12 school. Because, as I said earlier, they're going to be around the game one more year. There's just so many opportunities out there for kids. And if you really look at it, if you look around the country, on average, there's 4 to 5 kids every year that leave Division I schools at almost every school.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a variety of reasons, wrong fit, was homesick, missed mom, missed the girlfriend, wasn't good enough. Coach didn't like him, didn't like the coach. There's a variety of reasons. It's one of the reasons that I'm such a big proponent of junior college baseball, because I think what it does is it gives the kid the opportunity to, mature not only physically, but also mentally, and put yourself in a position to make the right decision in regards to where you're going to be to end your college career. I just think in today's society, or in today's recruiting world, we're asking 15, 16-year-old kids to make a decision on where you want to spend 4 years of your life 3 years from now. And I just think that's a really, really difficult proposition,
Mm-hmm.
for a young man that's 15 or 16 years old. Hey, a lot of times, they hit and they're right, and it works out for the best. But I think there needs to be a lot more time spent in regards to, what is this young man ready for, from a emotional standpoint, from a physical standpoint, to give him the best chance to play. Because the one thing I have learned over the years is baseball players want to play. Baseball players don't necessarily want to sit around and watch other guys play. So I think it's really important that during this selection process, you take that into account, that, hey, where's an opportunity where my young man really has a chance to go and compete early and get a chance to play.
Yeah, and you think about even just the D2, the D3, the NAI opportunities, that don't get talked about as well. That's another thing I think families can get more educated on. I mean, just in Texas alone, looking at, not a whole lot of Division II schools in Texas, but there's over 10 of them that I guarantee a lot of families don't know about. Um, and Division III, I'm just doing a little bit of quick research on this. But 15 Division III programs. I mean, nationwide, you got over 200 Division II programs. You got over 300, almost 400 Division III programs, and just under 200 NAI programs. That might be able to be a great fit, for a player as well, and put together a good athletic and/or academic and financial package for families too.
Absolutely. And I tell you, I had a friend of mine, Pat Combs, and he actually pitched in the big leagues. And we were having a conversation one day. And he said, well, people don't understand a lot is playing is playing. Doesn't matter where you're at. If you really love the game, and you really want to play the game, getting a chance to go play is getting a chance to go play. And, getting caught up in, what the name of the school is, and that is not the most important thing. Once again, it's playing is playing, and getting a chance to play one more year is what I think is most important.
And this is even for the pro ball opportunities. I mean, what some people don't realize, in players, if you're listening to this, professional scouts are drafting players from all these levels: Division II, Division III, NAI, every year in numerous amounts, a lot more than people would think. So, and there's plenty of big leaguers that came from, non D1 programs. Even after junior college, they didn't even, go to a Division I program. So, keeping that in mind, I think, to your point of just playing the game and getting better. And sometimes, there's really good player development and pitching development coaches, at the lower levels as well.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many. It's one of the great things about this baseball fraternity is the guys that have a passion for the game typically find a way to come back and give something back to the game, and it is at all levels. So you find those individuals that were passionate about the game, and you'll find them scattered from the Division III, Division II, junior college, NAI, Division I level, and there's a lot of really great coaching across all levels across the country.
Well, I want to switch gears and go. I've heard you speak to parents many times, and there's two stories that I'd like you to share, and you don't need to name names, but one of the players was kind of like you know, one of the over recruited or heavily recruited, 14-year-olds that you had coached back in the day.
Yeah, I just always tell this story to parents about, where your young man is today. is not going to be where he's going to be even 6 months from now. These kids change so much physically from this 14 to 18-year-old age group. But the story I tell is, I had a kid that played on my team that was, tall and, scrawny and lean and could barely had enough strength to carry the bat to the plate. And in that same age group, there's another kid that I promise you at that age group was the best player in the world. Every weekend he hit 4 or 5 home runs, and actually when he was 13, he was like 80 to 81 on the bump. But, what I saw is the young man that played for me stayed after it and, worked his tail off and was a student of the game, and he developed an unbelievable hitting approach. He had an approach for every situation. And, that kid went on to play in the College World Series twice and play for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And the kid that was the best player in the world played 1 year of junior college baseball. And I tell that story just so people understand that, where your son's at today could be a far cry from where he's going to be if, he makes the right decisions in regards to hard work and strength training and nutrition. And if he really has a passion for the game, really the sky's the limit. And you really don't know what that limit is when a kid's 14 or 15 years old.
It's so true. Especially with how baseball is in terms of, being such a skill and technical sport, that you can start to make these incremental improvements and really see, growth over the course of over time as a player, starts to get more comfortable with themselves and their body, and physically they start to mature as well. So absolutely. And then I want to kind of talk a little bit about something that you've brought up. As you're a parent, of a few kids yourself. I know one just graduated Texas Tech, but you talk about how these moments are fleeting for parents.
Yeah, Andrew, I tell you what, one of the greatest things that I wish so much that I would have heard before I started coaching was Cade Griffiths, is the owner of DBAT, friend of mine, was telling me a story about, when he was playing, he was young, he'd get in the car after the game, and he went 4 for 4 and, had 3 doubles, just had a great day. He'd get in the car and his dad would turn around and say, son, I really enjoyed watching you play today. And he said, Lynn, we go out the next week, and I'd go 0 for 4 with 3 punch outs. We'd go get in the car, and Dad would turn around and say, son, I really enjoyed watching you play today. And I just wish that I had that perspective before I actually started coaching my own sons, because these are fleeting moments. And this thing is over in a flash. And when it's over, it's over. And I think one of the huge mistakes that's made today is that parents don't really cherish the moment. Um, I got to watch it when my perspective was always a little different because I played a little bit. So, one at bat was one at bat, and, one error was one error. And, the way I always viewed it is, there's no need in getting upset about an at bat in your game because you're about 30 minutes away from getting another one. But I watch these parents live and die with every single at bat, every pitch that's thrown. And I really don't think they have the opportunity to really sit back and just enjoy watching them play. And that's the thing that I would really like to see change. And, I tell parents all the time, especially when a kid's a freshman, a sophomore, even a junior, I've never had a college coach ask me what a kid's batting average was when he was 16. Not one. And I've been around this a long time. What they want to know is, will the kid compete? They're going to go and see that the kid has tools. And, I think a lot of times there's some additional pressure put on the young man to perform just by the behavior of those that, he looks up to the most, his mom and dad. And so I would just like to see people sit back and relax and cherish it. I got one more story for you to tell you a little bit about this game that I always like to share with you. It was 1988. Coach Hayes was giving me a chance to kind of work my way in the lineup. Gave me a chance to pinch hit at the University of New Mexico. It was a Sunday afternoon game, last game of the series. We're tied up in the 8th inning, I come up in the top of the eighth. I got a runner on third with one out. I get down in the count 0-2. I battle my tail off. I get the count back to full. Probably had a 10 or 11 pitch at bat. The guy just thrown me back-to-back sliders that somehow I fouled off, trying to backdoor me. And I knew a fastball was coming, and it did. And it was probably about 87, 88 miles an hour right down the middle, and I took it for a called third strike. So the important thing about that is that, my dad didn't have to remind me of that at bat. Coach Hayes didn't have to remind me about that at bat. My girlfriend who became my wife didn't have to remind me about that at bat. I relive that at bat every single day of my life, and I'm 52 years old. So the point is that this game is so humbling, and it is brutal at times, and the lows are so low. It's what makes the highs so great. I just really like to see parents comprehend and understand that poor performance, doesn't need to be harped on, because there's nobody that's going to feel worse about it than the actual baseball player that experienced it. And I would just like to see the parents just really sit down one day and just enjoy watching your kid play, man. Playing the greatest game ever invented. Don't worry about, who's looking at him, who's recruiting him. The one good thing about the game of baseball is it rewards those that deserve to be rewarded. And if a kid is talented enough to get a chance to play at the next level, this game is consistent in providing that mechanism for that kid to go to the next level. And that being the case, and me knowing that with my background and my experience, then why not just sit back and enjoy watching them play? So there you go.
It's a great lesson. And I'll just say that, I'll add on that, for parents that are listening, that, yeah, you've chosen to support your son in probably the most confidence crushing and humbling sports, ever invented. But it is a classroom for life, because the amount of confidence, kind of toughness, faith, teamwork, work ethic. This sport is a breeding ground for character development. And giving your son up to enjoy that game and that classroom and learning is a real critical part of that. Because if you try to micromanage, them and their development, they're going to miss some of these life lessons that they can apply and actually, develop, even quicker. Adding on top of that, college coaches are very aware of parents that are, let's say, overbearing, or helicopter parents, or, just too vocal maybe in the stands. They pay attention to it all. They don't miss a beat. They realize when they're recruiting, potentially your son, they're recruiting your whole family as a package deal. Lynn, anything you want to add on top of that?
Well, you're exactly right. Right, wrong, or indifferent, the parent is going to be a reflection on their child, regardless of the child's behavior or the young man's actions. Human nature alone is going to relate you to an individual if you're, their son, if they behave in a certain way. That's why it's even more important that I think sit down and enjoy watching them play. And, if a college coach is in the stands and, he sees a father that can't deal with the adversity going on in the field, he can relate that to, well, man, maybe the kid's not going to be able to deal with adversity. And this is a game about dealing with adversity. So, just sit down and enjoy watching them play, because I'm just telling you, it's over in a flash. And when it's over, it ends sudden. I can remember each one of my boys' last game, and what the feeling was like when it was over. And, the great thing about it is, they've taken the lessons that they've learned and applied them in their lives. And, to date, they're having some success with that. And at the end of the day, that's really the most important thing.
Well, I'll add a little personal story, because just on that, these fleeting moments. So, the last the last games my dad was able to see me play was my sophomore year in college. The weekend series before Easter, and playing against USC. So he passed away of cancer, during my sophomore year at college, and because of that, um, he actually missed, another 2.5 years of college baseball, missed 6 seasons of professional baseball. So you're talking about, hundreds of games. Um, and we've dealt with families that, have had, health adversities. So just even as a parent, um, your enjoyment of these moments is really critical, um, for for your son's development, and for his enjoyment as well, because God's blessed your son to play the game, which is most kids that are still playing in high school or still playing for a travel ball team, they're usually pretty good, to still be playing, because the amount of drop off that happens between little league baseball and kind of high school baseball is dramatic. So kind of, I think, coming from a place of gratitude, and understanding that your son's been blessed to play arguably the most difficult sport, is something to keep in perspective, with all of this as well. Um, well, I think we'll. I want to talk a little bit more about Five Tool, um, and then we can wrap this up, Lynn. But in terms of Five Tool, I know you've grown it organically with creating really good relationships, with different people around the country, to work with. I know Brewer well. I know some of your other guys well. Kind of give us a full scope of just where you're at, and what lies ahead for Five Tool Baseball.
Well, we're just you know, trying to take everything as it comes each and every year and see where we have the opportunity to maybe, grow moving forward. The one thing that I think has been really cool about this thing is that we've been able to hook up with some true baseball families, not only baseball men but their wives, and we've kind of made it a family type business, and it's all about being in a situation to um, create an environment for these young men to go showcase their abilities and get a chance to play at the next level. You'll never hear us claim that we got anybody a scholarship, but hopefully we've assisted in creating a mechanism and a venue where these guys can come out and play, and the college and pro guys can come watch them play, and get it have a chance to create an opportunity for those young men. We're operating in 15 states now. um, the first year Shree and I did this, I mean, we had two events in Dallas Fort Worth that had 34 total teams in those two events. Um, and then we're going to look to expand if we feel like that we can still create regional opportunities for the kids. And we've been very blessed to hook up with some very passionate people about the game, and where we've done that, it seems to work. So this year we're getting a little more into the individual type stuff. That's something that I've been very hesitant to do until I really felt like that we could do something that created some value. And I think now with some of the analytical data that we can provide, that's objective data and not subjective. I think that's very important for these players to use as a baseline from year to year to see how they're progressing. I think going to one showcase a year, is enough, but I also think it's important because I think it establishes that baseline, and from that point forward, you can take your money and invest it in your nutritionist, your strength coach, your hitting coach, your pitching coach, your club, whatever it is. But I think it's important. So that's an area that will probably grow in a little bit, Andrew, and then we're going to look
Hmm.
for strategic other areas around the country where we can create some regional opportunities, hopefully.
Absolutely. And right now you got, Five Tool Texas. You got Five Tool kind of in the Midwest area. Um, you got Five Tool on the West Coast, with a lot of California and Nevada and some Arizona. And then I know you expanded into five tool in the Northwest as well this year, right?
Yeah, that's first year. We think we've found some good people up there that, you know, believe in kind of what we do, and every one of these things has kind of happened by accident. It was either associated with somebody, being at our event and wanting to expand it. You know, VTech Bico, was kind of with us from the start on getting the deal going in Oklahoma, and he's expanded his operation to, Kansas, Arkansas, and Missouri, working around some Division I schools and some venues. And then, as you talked about, Ryan Brewer has done and got us going out west. We added a South Texas group this year as well, and our growth there has been pretty good. So the Northwest guys, I'm pretty excited about it. And it's first year, so the events will be a little smaller, but hopefully they get a chance to kind of experience what we do from a social media standpoint, and getting the kids a little bit of recognition for performing at a high level. Hopefully it'll work out.
Well, what I've heard firsthand, from college coaches, is that the events are well run, they're organized. You got all the, you know, the roster stuff, the player books, everything is, set up, to serve these coaches well, which brings coaches back. And then I've talked to a number of travel team coaches, as well, and they just say, you know what, these are the best run events and tournaments that we've been to. So I haven't shared all of that with you yet, Lynn, but I figured, it's good to hear, some positive testimonials that aren't, solicited from guys directly.
Well, and I appreciate that. Andrew, it's just really a product of, a lot of great people, which include, the colleges that we work with and the professional scouts, the clubs, and, the parents. I mean, Sheree and I are always laughing because by the time the summer's over in Texas, she knows about 80% of the moms and dads because she's greeting them at the gate coming in and out. And I mean, the California deal is been a blessing, and getting to associate with some great clubs that we normally wouldn't see in Texas. Whether it be BPA, TB SoCal, NorCal. The Trombley group's been really good to us, and we hopefully we extend that to the Northwest and continue to have these relationships. It's been the greatest gift that baseball's really given me, is the opportunity to get a chance to meet so many quality people. And then when you get a chance to see a young man, when he's 14, 15 years old, and then you see, kind of his dream become a reality when he's 17 or 18. And then, now we're at a point where we're old enough where we're seeing these kids that played in our stuff that are in college and now going to pro ball. It's just been a lot of fun and very rewarding.
Yeah, well, I know you serve as the founder and president of Five Tool Baseball, but we all know who the CEO is, and that is Cherie Van Landingham, right?
Absolutely. And if you guys ever need anything related to our organization, I would start with her because, she's an amazing woman. And, and we started dating. I was 15 and she was 14, and she's seen almost every game that I ever played, including all the games our boys played. And, fortunately, she's kind of a yard rat herself, and we've had a lot of fun getting an opportunity to kind of share this thing together. And, our boys have periodically helped us and done things, and it's just been a lot of fun. And, a lot of the people we have inside the organization that I mentioned earlier, I mean, we consider those guys family now. Our social media director, Jeff Kahn, I mean, he's like my fourth son. So it's been a lot of fun.
Well, let's wrap it up with kind of the social media presence. There are going to be some people that are listening to this that don't know where to find y'all, and also, just there are, thousands of college coaches that rely on, the Five Tool, social media feeds through Twitter and through Instagram. So share a little bit more on that.
Well, we started the deal on Twitter, I guess, probably in 2014, I guess, and it's just been a great tool to see, what a kid can do and how he's performing. And then, of course, as social media trends have changed. We've moved into, Instagram and, now doing short videos on TikTok. And we just want to find a way to, one, be able to relate to the players who, are one of our most valuable clients. And then also have a mechanism where, their performance, whether it be their swing, their pitching mechanics, their defensive abilities, can be shared with those that follow us and, might spark some interest from a college coach and then create an opportunity for that young man down the road. So that's the one thing that we've been very, very adamant about, Andrew, is what we're going to do from a social media standpoint is, we try to take into account, all the players. And really, to be honest with you, the first round draft picks, they really don't need my help. They don't really need anybody's help. I mean, those kids are, extremely blessed athletically and have the skill set that's going to create some opportunity for them. But there's a whole lot of kids that, might not have those specific skill sets now at 15 and 16, but all of a sudden at 17, 18, and 19, they become a dude. And we just want to make sure that if we can show something that shows one of those skill sets that somebody could have some confidence in, it's going to develop into something special, then, that gets seen. And those social media platforms have been huge for us in being able to showcase these guys and hopefully give them an opportunity.
Yeah, and we'll link a lot of that, your different accounts in the notes on this page when we post it. But final thing is dudes of the day. So where did it come from? Tell us a little bit more about it. How you guys, execute that that kind of merit-based model.
Well, actually, that really originated from, Tony Vitello, who was a recruiting coordinator at TCU.
Yeah.
At the time, I was coaching my 2014 team, and we were talking about, I tell you, we were talking about a player from Oklahoma, and it was our Midwest director, Vitek Baiko's son. And, Tony told me, he goes, oh, man, I think that guy's going to be a dude. And so, that's become one of the terms in regards to recognizing a really good player is he's a dude. And so we started, the dudes of the day for the guys that performed at the highest level each day at our events. And it's just kind of snowballed on us. So we've had a lot of fun with it. It's a lot of fun to be at the events and, a kid do something and hear the dugout yell "dude alert" and stuff like that. So it's been a lot of fun. So we're gonna continue on with that.
Absolutely. That's dude's a total California term. I'm glad it got out to you guys.
Well, we're just a little slow. It's us here in Texas, we're a little slow, but we're gaining on you.
No doubt. Well, the baseball's good all over the country now. That's what's really exciting. And I'd say, final words for parents, players, coaches listening to this is that it is so critical to surround yourself with world class coaches, mentors. As a parent, you think about this process. You know, again, we've said this many times, but baseball is a very, it's a very challenging sport with a lot of adversity, and just as you kind of go down this journey of supporting your son through 12 to 18 or even beyond through college or professional baseball, I would say just continue to do um, the research and learn more about how you can continually surround yourself, your son and your family, um, with the right coaches, the right teams, the right events, the right mentors, because the old expression, it takes a village, to kind of raise a man. Well, raising a baseball player and raising, in the future, a leader, a husband, a coach, a father, that's what lies ahead, for your child, going through this process. And it's very difficult to do it, on your own, as a parent. So anything else you want to add on that, Lynn?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, from a coaching standpoint, all the coaches, I hope, when they look at a young man, they look at not what he is, but what he possibly could be. And I think it's the same thing as a parent when you're watching your son play. enjoy watching what he is, but then also give him the opportunity to blossom and mature to be what he actually could be. And, I think you have to do that through a tremendous amount of support, more so than any other game, because baseball is a game where the successes are highlighted and the failures are really highlighted. So, when you swing and miss for strike three, everybody in the stands, everybody in the dugout, the umpires, the defenders in the field, they're all watching you fail. And, whereas in football, if you miss a block on the offensive line and, you give up a sack, not that many people really see that. So I think it's just really important to support your young man, make sure that, you pick him up when he needs it the most. And this game is so brutal. There's just no need to rehash a bad situation that happened in a baseball game. Just let him deal with it. Just let him go through it. It's a lot more embarrassing for him than it is for you. Sometimes that's hard for a dad to believe, but his performance on the field is a reflection upon him. It's not a reflection upon you. And you just have to trust that what he's learning through that failure is going to help him be more successful in life.
Absolutely. What a powerful lesson. Well, Lynn, thanks for joining us, and look forward to picking up this conversation again and probably doing a round two here in the near future.
That'd be great, Andrew. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for being part of the Realities of College Recruiting podcast and our partner 5-Tool Baseball. You can easily subscribe on iTunes and check us out online at SportsForce Baseball for every past episode of our podcast. If you want to ask questions, share insights, and recommend future guests, hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at SportsForceBB and Facebook under SportsForce Baseball. Be sure to join us on our next episode of the Realities of College Recruiting podcast. And remember, your college decision isn't a 4-year one, it's a 40-year one.